All right, shalom, shalom. First off, give all praise, honor, and glory unto
Unto Yahweh,
Yahweh, by Hashem,
Ba'ashem,
Yahweh
Yahweh
Shai,
Shai,
by Hashem
Ba'ashem
Rakar
Kadash.
Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS. Salutes and honors to the elect, all the brothers across the four corners who are enduring in truth and sincerity, all the men and women who follow. This is the brother Karatazai,
This is your brother Yatzazakba.
and we're both of the Nebraska camp. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, we have another lesson coming back at you. This one, being a part two in the series of the history of the world reserve currency, all right, being entitled The East India Company and the Spanish Empire. All right, so in the first installment, we laid the groundwork, or Saki, I laid the groundwork, so to speak, of what money is, what true value is, and how the world's economy is based on resources and how that came into play dealing with the Portuguese Empire. All right, so this is the follow up. Let me see. We're gonna start with the Spanish Empire, but there's and these aren't exact numbers, but this is showing all the empires, the world reserve currency empires. Starting with Portugal, going with Spain, then the Netherlands, the French, the British, and America as of today. So we're going to start with the Spanish Empire because they were second. But just a couple of things. Can we get this, Sirach?
So this is Sirach chapter 10, verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another.
And you're going to see in this lesson, the Spanish Empire, of course, we know they conquered, most of, from California all the way down to like Argentina and the West Indies, all of this. It was riches gotten by the sea. All right. They came over here to the Western Hemisphere, raided, robbed, and murdered the natives, um, stole all the riches, sent it back to Spain so that they could become the world's first, global power, the first world empire. If you have any questions, brother, go ahead and ask, and you'll through the spirit, we'll get it answered for you.
I do have a question. What's this flag that he has?
That I believe it's just like it's a Spanish flag. Not it's like the Spanish Empire flag, not from Spain, but
Spain
like,
flag,
but yeah, it's just like basically claiming it for Spain,
like a Confederate flag almost. For them.
Yeah, something similar, kind of. And yeah, it's really showing. And when you go into Spanish Empire, going to the East India Company, it's all unrighteous dealings and riches gotten by the sea. And this is one reason why the so-called white man's kingdom is going to end, and our kingdom is going to begin. And if you got any precepts, what I'm saying, other than the ones I got, then Baba Washai, pull them up.
Okay. This is Psalm chapter 17, verse 13. Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down. Deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. From men which
it said to deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword, because there was a lot of murder, a lot of pillaging, man. It's just a lot of death, and we're going to go into that. We got a couple numbers, and Lord's will all overall. This is edifying, but this is basically the sword of the Lord coming over and really taking over the world. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked, and this is how the earth was given into their hands by them coming from Europe. And matter of fact, let me jump back real quick. Circumnavigating the world, okay, setting up their outposts, which became colonies, and them expanding, okay.
It says, from men which are thy hand, O Lord, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure.
Yeah, so they had their portion in this life. That's why they're going to win on this side, and we're going to win on the next side when we get into the kingdom.
Khan, that's what's the second Ezra 6 and 9 for Esau is the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that followed.
Con.
Read on, it says they are full of children and leave the rest of their substance to their babes.
Right. They pass down that inheritance. That's why Esau, they say they had a 300-year head start on us. That's why. And also, a lot of these banking families, a lot of these old money families, this is how they got their money during these times, because the profit margins from some of these voyages that they went on, they were coming back and quadrupling their money, getting 400% for what they left with. So overall, Lord's will, this is edifying. We got a couple. Of course, you see, what the Spanish Empire was. This is the British East India Trade Company, because there's 3 East India companies. All right, the British had their company, the Dutch had their company, and the French had their company as well. So it wasn't just one East India company. These are 3 competitors. They weren't friends at all. They were going to war with each other. All right, they were killing each other. This is like Burger King, McDonald's, and fucking Jack in the Box.
So if these were Dutch, Spanish, and French, how come they're going under the name East India? Like, why isn't the Dutch trading company?
Well, it's the Dutch East India Company, and it's the East India Company, it's the French East India Company, because they were all going to India, and in the let me see if I got all in the Dutch East Indies. They were all going over here in this area of the world, just rape, robbing, and pillaging, really. They were doing some trading. They did some trading, but they used slaves. They were basically taking the riches of these lands and bringing them back to Europe. Where, we went over in part 1, dealing with Revelation 20:1 about the bottomless pit. There's a lack of mineral resource in Europe, so bringing the spices, the pepper, the nutmeg, cloves, yarn, silk, indigo, silver, all that silver from Japan, all of that porcelain, luxury goods, bringing all of that resource back to Europe. And then, like I said, making a 400% markup to the value. Going back to what I said in the previous installment, it's all about cutting off the middleman. Because say like you wanted to get something from India, it would go from this empire to the next empire along the way. Say like this $100, right? India sells it to the Persians for $100. The Persians sell it to whoever was in power over here, say the Turkey, or just say Turkey. They sell it to them for $200. Then they sell it to them for $300, and then you buy it here in Europe for $400.
But it started at $100.
So if you come all the way over here, you could buy it for yourself at $100, bring it all the way back. It's being sold for $400. You can sell it for $375, cut them off, and still make a profit.
Right.
So that's the name of the game. Okay. So let's jump into this first. We're going into the Spanish Empire. Of course, we know Columbus, landed in the East Indies in 1492, and he came over there with Hebrew interpreters. We know that he knew that there was known that the other 10 tribes were in a land far away. Matter of fact, let's get that right now.
2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, who Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
Yeah, they went forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So go ahead.
So it says that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river.
Right. So on this map, you can kind of see the Euphrates right here. So this is the path that they took. Go ahead.
It says, for the Most High did show signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over.
Right. So they came from the Euphrates into the ocean. Okay, he said that he held still the floods because when one ocean mixes with the other ocean, is very tough seas. Okay, and right here around the Horn of Africa, or it's like not the Horn of Africa, the Cape of Africa, that's where it gets turbulent. Go ahead.
For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth.
Right, so they knew, well, if they can get from the Euphrates out in the Persian Gulf all the way to another land and it take a year and a half, well, it's somewhere out there. So they had this foreknowledge. So they'll say that they're trying to get over here by going this way around the world, but they knew that there was some place that the Hebrews were. Did they know it was America over here? I don't think necessarily they knew that, but they knew that we was around there somewhere. All right, and when they did that, they came over here, and this is they set up shop. They killed a lot of people. And when you go into the Spanish conquest, all right, the estimated death toll from the Spanish conquest is a range of fewer than 1 million to 70 million people. It might snow 1 to 12 inches. But that's Esau being the devil who he is, because he know it was not less than 1 million people. You can't take over two whole continents and not shed that little amount of blood. That's why he gives himself a stupid high number and a stupid low number, because the real number is probably somewhere in between. The real number could be double or triple this number, because Esau's the fucking devil. But this is how they really set up their empire. Like I said, mineral resource is the name of the game. Bob, wish I can get this 18.
Revelation chapter 18, verse 11. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore.
Now, I know this is talking about, in the last days when America's been destroyed, but it really gives us an idea on why they came over here and what was over here when they got here and what's still being sold on the high seas today.
The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and all thyine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men.
Yeah, basically commodities, man. Everything that they came over here, they found an abundance of, and they shipped it back to Spain, allowing them to be called the empire which the sun never sets. That's what they really thought, that they was going to always be those dudes, because they set up shop in North America. They set up shop in South America. They set up shop in the Philippines, and the first slaves from the New World, all right, were coming from Hispaniola back to Spain. Of course, the Portuguese were already taking slaves from West Africa and bringing them back to Europe. So man, this slavery, that Deuteronomy 28 speaks of, it's way before, 1776.
The transatlantic slave trade.
This is the transatlantic slave trade. This is the genesis of it, the beginning of it. All right, can we get this real quick?
Oh, this is scripture I was thinking about too. Psalms chapter 49, verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations.
Yeah, man, their empire is the empire on which the sun never sets. Right? They're always going to be good days. They're always going to be, the first world empire, that major, company, or that major empire, the world power. Okay, Slakia.
They call their lands after their own names.
Right, because all these names down here, that these places, Colombia, San Juan, Santo Domingo, all these names that they're named after Edomites, Spanish Edomites, Portuguese Edomites, Dutch Edomites, so on and so forth. French Edomites, British Edomites, even like the Tasmanian Devil is named after a guy named Tasman, who is Dutch, because they circumvented what you would see here, Australia. So this no different than Africa, being named after Leo Scipio Africanus. They've been doing this. They that's how they leave their mark. All right, and it's no different over here in the Americas than it is in Africa or Asia or Europe or Australia or any other place in this world. All right. And that's what they believe, that their houses will continue forever. But one thing, and they were rich. Don't get that misunderstood. The Spanish Empire, when you look, at all the resources, how much stuff is coming out of America right now? Just imagine when it was still in full power.
Right.
Because the Gadites weren't raping the land, so to speak, pillaging the land like Esau did when he got here.
They would have still been keeping sort of the proper way how to keep the land, right?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? They were nomadic. So they would stay in a place and they would move. They would stay in a place and they would move. It's like it. Esau, once they found silver, once they found, okay, we can plant sugar and do all of that, hey, he started overdoing it, pumping up the production. All right. And that's where, the slaves and soulless man come in play, because you're getting free labor. And when you're getting all that free labor, it's just free money. And all that riches went back to Spain. But Spain fumbled the bag because they were getting into wars with, the other major powers, and that drained them. And that's why the sun did set on the Spanish Empire. Okay. So let's move on in the concern of time for the East India companies.
Okay, so you want to do that?
No, it's cool. So of course, we got the British, the Dutch, and the French. But why? Why would you call yourself an East India company, or why is there a need to be a company? Mm-hmm. So imagine, Yatazak, you own a fleet of 5 ships, you got your crew and everything, and I say, I come at you to say, hey, I want to finance you to come all the way over here and to, get some spices, come back, and we're gonna sell them and we're gonna split the money. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm putting all my eggs in your basket, so to speak. So when you come all the way over here, you're not going to come back whole. You might lose a ship. It might get shipwrecked. You might get pirates. People might get sick and die. You're not going to come back whole. And the less you come back with, the more profit is lost. So what they did, instead of me putting all my eggs in one basket on one voyage, how about I go get 10 friends and we all finance voyage after voyage after voyage after voyage and spread that loss out. So if your voyage gets shipwrecked or get robbed by pirates or y'all all get scurvy or whatever, it doesn't hurt as much because we got 10 other expeditions going on and we're the greater good, so to speak. Okay. The British did it first, and then the Dutch did it a few years after them, and then the Dutch actually did it to a high level, becoming known as the richest company in the world.
Okay. So, Baba Kushad,
Yeah.
can I see that other slide that you just had up?
This one?
This one right here.
Okay.
So is this like all the routes that the Dutch trading company took? Okay.
That's exactly what it is. So they would come from Amsterdam, go all the way down Cape Town. They set up, like I said, they set up their little going back to the Portuguese, they set up, their I'm sorry, the words are escaping me.
The colonies.
They grew in the colonies.
Ports.
They basically ports, basically safe havens that they can stop and didn't have to just travel on the high seas for 10 months. Outposts, that's the word. They set up those outposts, and those outposts became colonies.
Gotcha.
But that's how they became the world's richest company and the world's first multinational company. Okay. And of course, like I said, they use slave labor, not so much in the way it's used in America, the way we had to basically off the sweat of our backs, we had to plant the fields, break the fields down, all of that, at the crack of a whip. But let me go to the natives in these places. A lot of times they were doing that anyway because they were farmers, and then they would just take their stuff to market and they would trade. But the hauling, the grunt work, a lot of time were done by slaves. So, and that could be Jake slaves, that could be slaves from any of these places because they had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. Okay, they had quasi-governmental powers.
What's that mean? Quasi?
Quasi is semi. Let's get this real quick. It's not going to show on the screen.
Oh, okay, so quasi means a combining form, meaning resembling, having some but not all of the features of.
Right. So almost basically some of the features of a government. They could create laws, they could wage war, they can imprison people, they can execute prisoners, they can enslave populations, they can negotiate treaties, they can coin their own money, mint their own money, they could tax a population, they can establish a colony. Now, who does this sound like? Sounds like America in the 13 original colonies, because going back is look at this flag. This is basically the American flag. It's 13 stripes.
So they had all this power, but they weren't a government. What was stopping them? Like
it was a company.
Oh, okay.
And what is America today? Today, America is a corporation.
Yep.
And this is the first multinational corporation.
Okay.
That's why America has a president. Just like a company has a president. Because it's basically America is basically the East India Company incarnate. Because it did all of this. When they were the 13 colonies, did they not create laws, wage war against the natives, imprison and execute enslaved populations, negotiate treaties, come up with their own money, tax people, establish the 13 colonies? Well, the East India Company was doing all of that, which is why America has the flag, save the British part of the East India Company. Now, one thing that was granted to the Dutch version of the East India Company was a 21-year monopoly to carry out trade activities in Asia. So when you see this map, this is how they were able to come up so fast, because nobody else was able to come over there. They pretty much ran the Portuguese out. The Portuguese actually hooked up with the Spaniards, and when the Spaniards were dying out, the Portuguese kind of died out with them. But they both had colonies by that time. Going back, let me see. The Portuguese had Brazil and a couple of these little islands over here. But you see the Spanish Empire. So they weren't tripping that they couldn't go over here because they had everything in the West. All right. Stocks. So as they went on their voyages, their journeys, coming back and forth, they were able to give like a 40% dividend to their stockholders. When people think about the modern day stock market, and all that shit goes back further than we could even imagine. You know, there was stocks in the 1500s and the 1600s. People were playing the stock market. That's why Jake, you know, we don't know anything as a people. You know, we don't have that knowledge of stocks and bonds and treasury bonds and all these other things, but Esau does, and he teaches and he passed that down to his kids, like we read. So they have that knowledge, and they've been getting rich from it. So, like I said, they would get like a 40% dividend, which basically means out of 100% of the profits, 60 will go back to the company, and then 40% will go to all the stockholders, that's excellent. That's a great return on your money. You got everything you invested back, plus like a 40% on top of that. You know, let's run that right back. I'm putting more money into it. You know, and that's how they grew to, the world's richest company. But they were overtaken. You know, the French has something to say in there as well. We're not going to go over too much of them. There is something that we're going to get, but not too much. They had their time, especially with Napoleon. But the British were them dudes. Before we get into the British, let's do the French. Okay, so they had this saying, "Florebo quocumque ferrara," which is, "I will flourish wherever I am brought," and that's their mindset. That's Esau's mindset. Wherever I go, I'm gonna be that dude. Going back to the Spanish, you know, the empire which the sun never sets. That pomp. Esau has that pomp about him. If you got some, you know,
It don't really go.
All right, well, we're gonna read Psalm 71, starting from the jump.
God, this is Psalm chapter 73, verse 1. It says, "Truly the Most High is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked."
Right, because when you have no moral code, you can do whatever you want, and you're going to get those riches gotten by the sea.
It says, Slack it with it. Verse 4. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm.
Right? There's nothing holding them back. All right. So they're gonna go that extra mile to get that extra dollar. All right.
They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore, pride compasseth them as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment.
And that's what we were going to before. They have that pride about them. To say something as bold as I will flourish wherever I'm brought. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And if you look on here, there's a cornucopia, all right, with the water flowing into it. Now, a cornucopia is basically it's basically like overflowing. I'm overflowing with riches, And when you go into that word flourish, can we get this real quick?
Kind of flourish. The etymology is to blossom, grow, to blossom, flower, bloom, prosper, flourish, to bloom, blossom, flower. Let me see. A metaphoric sense of thrive.
Right. I'm going to thrive. I'm going to bloom. I'm going to prosper wherever I go. That's their mindset. Okay, keep reading.
And getting to verse 7, their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish.
Yeah, and that's really what I wanted to get. They have more than their eyes stand out with fatness. They were going to flourish forever. You see, there's a fucking naked Edomite sitting on the water with a cornucopia flowing out of the water, right? What they're basically saying is, on these seas, on the high seas, on the water, can't nobody mess with me. Anywhere I go, I'm going to win. All we do is win no matter what. That's the mindset that they had. Okay? But like I said, the British put all these dudes to shame.
So I did have a scripture. I saw you had it on one of your slides. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to bring it out later. The Habakkuk 2:5.
I think that was on the last episode, but go ahead.
Okay, this Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 5 says, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied."
And all that hit on Esau, because as we can see, he don't keep at home, and he is as death, because everywhere he went, they were raging war with each other, raging war with the people of these lands, forcing them. And Lord's will, after I do this next portion on America, I'm gonna double back and go into the rape, rob, and murder, and how they just did India dirty. They did India dirty, like that's an understatement. Like filthy.
It says, "But gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people."
Hey, they enslaved populations, man, and this is a company. Imagine if the Ford Motor Company were able to go anywhere they want, create laws to help the Ford Motor Company. Well, you can have a car, but it has to be a Ford. If you don't drive a Ford, then you go to jail. Or if you don't drive a Ford, you can be executed.
Damn, that's draconian.
Right. Or if you go to jail, we can enslave you and make you work into the Ford plant. And then you got $5 bills with Henry Ford on it. You pay your taxes to the Ford company. And then you have a city named Focus. You have another city named Explorer, another city named Expedition. This is what they're doing. It's the exact same deal. But like I said, getting back to the point, the British part, they like I said, I think they were established in like 1660, and they came in like 1662. Don't quote me on the exact dates, but they just were a little bit ahead of the Dutch company. The Dutch company took it to the heights, but once Britain came along, and Britain was basically Britain was right behind them the whole time and establishing their dominance. But when Britain overtook them, it was a wash because that's the way that the Most High wanted it. That's how it had to be. Can we get this?
Revelation 17:10, it says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is.
That one that is Great Britain. All right. So the Lord set Great Britain up and for a purpose. Go ahead.
And the other is not yet come.
Right, because the other is not yet come. All right, and we haven't done a lesson on it because it's not yet come, which is America, because Britain is the mother of America, which is why we have this flag that we're looking at, which is an American flag with Great Britain on it, because that's their baby. Good.
And when he cometh, he must continue a short space.
Right, and that's America, having the last power of this world. All right, before it's turned back over unto the righteous, turned back over to the elect Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are in this truth, who believe, who are pushing this word. Okay, I think I hit all these points. I believe that's it. Did you have any other questions or anything like that, bro?
La'ah. La'ah.
All right. Well, Lord's word is edifying, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments. And Lord's will, I'll be able to answer anything that y'all have. And with that being said, we give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakar Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS. Salutes and honors to the elect, all the brothers across the 4 corners who are enduring in truth and sincerity, all the men and women who follow. And Shalom.
Shalom.